do that after the service. So we're so glad you're with us.
Glad to be here, brother. Thank you. I'm going to need you to help me just as we get started here. Well, an impartation requires participation and receipt. And I pray that what you will receive today will be nothing short of a life-changing encounter with the Creator of the universe. There is a liquid that in which the revelation of the presence of God flows. It's like a river that carries the message of the beauty of God. And it's called joy. Without joy, there's a rough, bumpy road of the revelation stream. But with the joy of the giver and the receiver, the revelation and the wisdom and the presence of the Holy One is communicated like dew on the ground, as Moshe would say in his Song of the Sea, Song of Songs. It would be like gentle rain upon the soul that awakens and heals. So I need you to help me and refrain after I sing this little chorus that I think we should all know. And I'll just sing the first phrase, and I want you to sing it back to me. I've got joy down in my heart. Deep, deep down in my heart. Peace and joy. Down in my heart. Deep, deep down in my heart. Now we have opened up a flow of communication. There's a stream of river flowing between us now where we can begin to have this conversation at such a time. I think I'm supposed to stand in front of the camera, so I'll try to do that more. I can walk around. It's okay. All right. That we can have this flow of communication. Last night, around the fire, for those of you who were able to come, many were not, but I understand we have things go on. But last night, we began this encounter weekend with a vision. There were shepherds abiding in the fields with their flocks. And last night it was as if we were really shepherds abiding in the fields, out down that way. I get my direction correct. And we were like shepherds abiding in the fields with our flocks. And it was Jew and Gentile. It was all different ages and all different ethnicities, and it didn't matter because, you see, in the kingdom, we were drawn into one place under the Sukkot, under the heavenlies, and we learned that there were shepherds abiding in their flocks. But then, suddenly, there was surrounding them a great multitude of the heavenly host. And we discussed about the presence of the great multitude of the heavenly host. And it's not just one time that heaven invaded earth like that. Every time his people get together, heaven begins to open those portals and begins to have heaven begin to release upon into the earth, into human flesh. And the transference takes place between the heavenly realm where all is joy. And remember what they sing. The first thing they sing is, glory to God in the highest, in the heavenly realms, in the realm where the throne room is, in the realm where the four living creatures are, and the 24 elders and the angels and the cherubim and the seraphim are constantly about the business of worshiping him and administering his kingdom in heaven as it might be on earth in one day. As glory to God in the highest, but there is a transition, something that takes place on earth in relation to that. As heaven begins to invade, as we have the preachers The angelic breachers come from the heavenly realm to the earth, and something happens in earth, and instead of looking like it does in heaven, glory to God in the highest, what comes forth is shalom. Shalom and great tidings, glad tidings of great joy. Peace on earth, goodwill toward men. Now, this heavenly infusion of energy that takes place when heaven meets earth requires us to get rid of everything besides shalom. We have plenty, right? We have plenty of things we have stress, we have anxiety, we have worry, we have unforgiveness. We have bitterness in our souls. We have a sense of victimization. We have all sorts of reasons not to have shalom. But when heaven begins to invade earth, and do you believe he really wants to invade earth? He wants to have an encounter with each one of us individually and all of us collectively. And he wants to do it as soon as possible. How about this weekend? If he wants to do this and he is releasing this process, then it's our job to respond. As you responded to me when I sing, I've got joy, and you began to sing it, and it came up in your heart, and you really believed you have joy. Now the idea is in our second day together, we will begin to eliminate those things which are not joy. Now, there are things in our lives that we are used to and comfortable with that are not joy or of the product of joy. The world around us, it constantly bombards us with things that are not joy. Are you bombarded? Is your family bombarded? Is your workplace bombarded? Is the news bombarded? Yes, we need to understand that the reason we need a heavenly infusion is because we are so bombarded and overcome by the anti-joy of this world and how it affects us. The traumatization. We're like constantly being traumatized. You don't realize it. Every day when you turn on the news, you're getting traumatized. When you listen to the political debates and how much rancor there is involved and how negative the speech is and how sarcastic and cynical it all is, you're getting bombarded, you're getting insulted, your spirit is being wounded, scar tissue is developing, and it's holding your joy inside a little box in there. It can't get rid of it because it is the presence of the Holy One that lives within you. It can't get rid of it, but it will box it up into a scar tissue box. And so it is our joy, our time, our chance, our opportunity, our pleasure at seasons of the year to awaken that scarred, broken box and pour it out unto the Holy One. As Mary did with the jar of oil, the jar of remind me of the spice, the alabaster box full of spikenard. Thank you. Just as that, let us take the box of joy that has been broken and hidden inside of us and pour it out on Yeshua's feet today. Now, that means that we're going to need to remove some of the things. And I'm going to do this rather quickly because this is not the subject of this message. This is just a necessary prerequisite. Okay, don't judge each other on this. This is you. Don't even judge me, although I'm worthy of it, I'm sure. But don't just look at your own life and ask yourself this: is joy the most obvious attribute that people see when they talk to me or look at me? Is joy the most obvious attribute or characteristic they notice whenever they talk to me or look at me? Don't shoot yourself too fast. Don't condemn yourself too fast. Most of us, and if it's not good enough just to ask you about people, if I were to ask, if you're married, if I were to ask your spouse, is joy the most obvious attribute and characteristic that your spouse exhibits? How about children? How about co-workers at work? How about people you meet in the parking lot at the department store? How about people on the street who pull out in front of you when you're trying to get there in a hurry? Is joy the most obvious characteristic and attribute? And some of you say, you can't be joyful in that. And I say to you, why not? Why not? Why not? Because you see, that is really the obvious sign that the Holy One has in fact invaded our space and come into our life, that we now are creatures who exhibit joy as our primary attribute and characteristic. As I don't know all about the stuff they're talking about, but man, I love the way they do it with such joy. Now, I know that some of us may feel a bit condemned at this moment, and that's not the purpose. The purpose is to say, okay, now, if I've been in a situation of less than joy as being my primary characteristic, today's the day to begin to take the shift. And I'm willing to do that so I can pour out this box of joy that I have on Yeshua's feet and wash his feet with my hair of delight and pleasure, if at all possible. Well, that's what we're here to do today. But it's not just the issue of being less than joy. Are you angry? I want to confess to you that I spent about 10 years in my 40s. After bad things happened in my life and people did things and whatever, it's too late to worry about all that now. But I will tell you that if you had asked me if I was happy, I would say yes. But if you asked my children if I was happy, they would say, no, I don't think so. I didn't realize that I didn't do it on purpose. I never sat down one day and said, I'm going to be angry and bitter over the things that have happened to me, the losses I've sustained, the losses my family sustained, the ways in which it's been unfair, it's been unright. It hasn't been right the way it's been done, and it hurt. And I've seen not only my own self hurt, but my family hurt. Now, that bitterness, you understand, is an anti-joy. You say, but I deserve that bitterness. As a matter of fact, it's kind of like I want that bitterness. It gives me some form of strength to fight against the world. If that's what we're holding on to for our strength, beloved, it's not going to get us very far. It'll wear out real quick. So are we willing to let go of any bitterness, any anger, any blame, all offense that we have against those who have hurt us or treated us unfairly or treated our children or our spouses unfairly? I know I can deal with my own self a lot better than I can deal with when they mess with my wife or they mess with my kids or my grandkids. I mean, I got to fight that one hard. And the issue, before we go further, because the Holy One wants to speak to us today, he wants to gather us around and he wants to give us our assignment for the coming year. But he doesn't want us to carry unforgiveness and anger and a sense of woundedness or victimization or blame to anyone. Okay, so this take a deep breath. Take a deep breath with me. If Yeshua were here in front of you, you would take it, wad it up like a ball, and throw it away and says, don't let me follow you. Let me go with you. You're worth it all. You're worth it all. And I'm not him, but I hope I'm carrying enough of him that you want to do the same thing. You want to take all the anger and all the unforgiveness and all the bitterness and all the blame and just say, it doesn't matter anymore because I'm following you wherever you go. And we get on our whithersoever thou goest, I will go close. And that's a very special thing to me, because back in the days of the Jesus movement, when I was young and whatever was going on with my life, and I was rushing up and down the Arkansas River Valley on back of flatbed trucks and preaching and singing, I always would close with this song. Okay? Wherever he leads, I'll go. Wherever he leads, I'll go. I'll follow my Christ who loves me so. Wherever he leads, I'll go. Now, that has been my heartbeat from the moment he stepped into that 64 Chevrolet car and told me I was his when I was 15 years old. But in my 40s, in my anger, and in my frustration, I will say I forgot how to sing that song. And that was the hardest song in the world to sing, because I knew that there were places he would take me in relationships, in forgiveness, in humility, that I didn't want to go. And so, fortunately, he had mercy on my soul. And he brought me back to the place of recognition that this is really a waste of time, worse than a waste of time. It's a waste of a life to hold on to that anger, that unforgiveness, that bitterness, that sense of it's all unfair and it's not right. And they're to blame and they did these things. Well, I was hoping you're getting the idea. And so let's pause for just a moment before we go into the next phase of our discussion here. If you would just bow your heads with me. And this is not just Bill praying a prayer. This is Yeshua coming to you and asking you if you're willing to give it up yet and follow him wherever he leads. Oh, Father, we have been wounded and we acknowledge it. We have embraced the wound way too many times. Forgive us and heal us, oh God, that we may indeed be healed and may indeed become healers as well. So as we stand before you and you pierce and probe our heart right now, would you strengthen us to take out and throw away and leave behind all the bitterness and the anger and the sense of unfairness and victimization we have experienced to date. And may we just see you as you are, holy, beautiful, and worthy, and follow you in that regard. May it be all over this room, in everyone. Age doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter. Fellowship doesn't matter. What group you're part of does not matter. May it all happen today. May that encounter be worth leaving all those things behind. Amen. Joy is not just should not just be our chief attribute. It should be that which sets us apart from all the rest of the world. I mean, you know, if we can carry the joy of the Holy One, the joy of the shepherds when they heard the angels sing, the joy that was released from heaven into earth, if we can carry that with us, the joy of being in the presence of Mashiach, Yeshua, walking with him, talking with him, catching the emanating power of his presence and his majesty and his being. If we could carry that with us into the conversations and the transactions and the interactions that we have with the world would be a different place, and we would be different people, and the impact we had upon the world would be significantly different. Well, that's what we're being called to this year, 5783, the next year of the Torah cycle. The next Torah cycle is 5783. And it's a time when he wants us to be prepared to go forth in joy. You will go forth in joy and be led forth in peace. You will go forth in joy and be led forth in peace. You will go forth in joy and be led forth in peace. You will go forth in joy, and you will be led forth in peace through 57 and 83, through this year and beyond. See, these years are just mile markers for us. They're just landmarks. I've got a few more landmarks than most of you do. But these landmarks, the idea is that the Holy One does indeed time. He does that for us because he gives us an assignment on earth. When we're given the chance to breathe the breath of air upon the earth, the chance to have our heart actually beat in our physical chest, the chance to have impulses run from our brain to the limbs, to our limbs and to the nerve centers all through our body. When he gives us that ability and gives us a time frame, we need to understand we're on a clock, and here we are on our clock today. We're at different places on our clocks. But he gives us this thing called years, a shanim, to begin to measure this time so we know where we are. I'm at 68 o'clock, okay? So at 68 o'clock, you think a little different than you did when you were at 5 and 6 o'clock. But you still realize, hopefully, that you're on the clock, and every time around the circle, every time around the cycle, you are needing to step up your act a little bit. Well, here we are. We've come to the end of 5782, the circle, and our individual cycles, and now this year, he wants us to have more impact. He wants us to go forth in joy and be led forth in peace more. Now, I want to start with this scripture from the Torah. You know it very well. Moses in Deuteronomy 1, when he's beginning his download, his great final download of wisdom, he says this. He says, the Holy One our God spoke to us at Horeb. And that's a good thing, right? The Holy One our God speaking to us. But we need to listen to what he says, because what he says is going to be impactful for us. The Holy One our God spoke to us at Horeb. What did he say? He said, Rav Lakem Shevet Bachar Hazeh. Rav Lakem Shevet Bachar Hazeh. You've wandered around this mountain. You sat down around this mountain long enough. You've been where you are long enough. That's enough. Enough at the lower level. Enough at the level of waiting your advancement, waiting your lifting up, your uprising. He said, now you've compassed this mountain long enough. Rav lachem shevet b'char chazeh panu uzeil lachem. Rise up. Rise up. It's time. Get up from all the stuff that we just left behind. Get up. Get back up if you've been down. Get back in the race if you've been out. Get back up. Turn yourself around and get on with your journey. Get on with your movement. Get on with the plan. Now, we need to understand not just that we have a plan for our life, but the creator of the universe has a plan for his creation and for the mankind species, and we are just part of the bigger plan. Now, people at my fellowship at BLC, at Biblical Lifestyle Center, they know what's coming next. You may not know what's coming next. So, because I do this is the creator of the universe has a plan, a grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, individual by individual, as many as will come. Now, that's step one. Step one of the process is, do you understand that we are in the midst of a grand movement of the heavenly host? He is planning to bring redemption to mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, individual by individual, as many as will come. We're in the. That's why we are here. We're playing part of the role. Nothing else we do, nothing else we deal with matters more than that. That we have a role to play in the grand redemptive plan for the redemption of mankind as a species. In our generation, in each of our shanot, each of our years that we experience, our cycles of going through the process, our ticks on the clock, we are supposed to be about the business of cooperating with and participating in the grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline. Now, if you know that's what you're here for, then the things that happen to you along the way don't seem quite so bad. Because if you know what we're into here, what we're up to, you can sort of expect there will be some kickback, some pushback by the world. They will even be pushed back by our relatives, by our spouses, and by our family members. This is a dramatic, a radical plan that the Holy One has. And the fact that he has chosen, what the mystery is that he hasn't chosen to do this primarily through angels. though that would be my choice. But it wouldn't reflect His glory the way His plan will. His plan is to take stubborn, broken, foolish human beings, fallen in the flesh, and radically empower them and change them from the inside out and fill them with joy and shalom and send them into the world. And that's the shock. That's the mystery. And that's the glory of God, that He can take men, women, children, little ones, big ones, and cause them to be vessels of His glory upon the earth. Hello, that's you, that's me, that's us. That's why we're here. Now, I know so many things happen in the meantime. We forget, we lose sight of that. But I've only told you one part of the plan. This is why everybody at BLC just sits there and smiles when I start talking about this, because I know what's coming next. As He is redeeming mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, individual by individual, as they will come, He is doing something else. Did you know that all creation is groaning in eager expectation? Because it's been subjected to futility. And the world around you, the earth, and all the things of the earth, the forest and those oceans, and the world, the earth as we know it, the ecosystem He has given us to manage down here and to bless down here is reeling. Now, that's not the good news. The good news is that He is calling forth, He has a grand plan to restore creation. Hillside by hillside, valley by valley, square inch by square inch. I think about South Africans, square meter by square meter, to its original intended state of beauty and fruitfulness and shalom. Eden is not over, it's just waiting. The earth is waiting to become Eden again. And He hasn't chosen angels to be the vessels of bringing this restoration. He's chosen you and He's chosen me. And every place we go, every place the sole of our foot will tread, is designed to be a place where we begin to bring the visitation of the holy, the Kedusha, of the Kadosh, into this realm, and to bring shalom into the realms. And so every parking lot you go into, every building you go into, every place you walk along sidewalks, if you're going forth in joy, being led forth in shalom, what is happening to you? You're bringing forth a level of that redemption and that restoration that He's calling for. Now, if you know that's your purpose in life, you have a reason to be alive. You have a reason for every breath that you take. For every time your heart beats, you may see it as, well, I get another time to maybe have another meal with my family and all that, and that's good, but that's not what he sees it as. My asset is still at work on the job in the grand redemptive and restorative plan. The problem is we forget we're involved in the plan. We stray from the mission. We stray from the focus, right? Now, this is a year, He says, I want you to be more focused, more listening, more able to hear what's going on. You have compassed this mountain long enough. Arise, get up, and go about the journey that you've been called to go to. All right, so are you up for a new adventure, a higher level of adventure? All right. I'm going to let you think on that. If you haven't got a response to that, are you ready for a higher level adventure in the kingdom, in the grand redemptive plan? Are you ready to do that? Are you kind of tired of where it was? If it's compassing the mountain, we're at the level we were at. Are you ready to step up into the higher realms? Well, He's ready to take us there. I'm glad about that. I don't know how many more cycles I've got, but I want every one of them to be raised up a level, another height. So He says, are you ready for a new adventure? And last night we talked about starting with an encounter atmosphere, a baseline, that we will live out of an encounter with the Creator of the universe. And we will live out of relationship with Mashiach, with Messiah, with Yeshua. So we will have a baseline is that whatever we have going on in our life, our baseline, our bottom line is whatever we see happening, whatever we feel happening to us, it is viewed through the lens of this. We have had and are having regular encounters with the Creator of the universe. We are not left on our own. We're not left to read the news and tell us what went on. We're not left to the forms of religion to tell us what went on or what can go on or what the possibilities are. We have access to the throne of the Creator of the universe and this wisdom that comes forth from His lips. Hallelujah. So this is our baseline. This means that there are certain sounds and noises and voices we need to quit listening to. I am not going to try to tell you what those voices are because you probably already know what you might have been listening to that's taken you below the baseline. You see, if you're at the baseline of I live out of encounter with God, and I live out of an ongoing, vibrant, lively relationship with Messiah, if you're on that baseline, when bad news comes, it just hits you and bounces off. Or at most stops you in tracks for a second before you move on. But if you're below the baseline and you've forgotten that you are living out of encounter and you're just living out of religion, or you're living out of ideology, or you're living out of political views, or you're living out of flesh, if you're doing that, when that bad stuff hits you, it takes you and just like an alligator, takes you under the water, swirls you around 14 times, bites you really hard, and drowns you till you just all feel like you're dying. You're out of your element. So stay above the baseline this year, right? Well, we got a little bit of work on our part. I've got joy. You come on. We've got to keep it going, and we've got to encourage one another in keeping it going because we need to stay above the baseline. I have a family in my fellowship that the BLC fellowship is not mine. It's a beautiful thing, but and they have three children, all about between 18 and 25. They're home. They're all home, living home so far, although about to get married. But every time one of them begins to slide below the baseline, the others laugh at him and say, "Are you sliding below the baseline?" Because they've got my vocabulary. They follow my vocabulary. And they give my and it's like, I think I am. And so they work with each other. They help each other to come back above the baseline to the point of encounter. And so if you have a friend, if you have a spouse, if you have a brother, a sister, someone that you are with, a roommate, anything that you can talk to, try to get them in. If they follow the Holy One at all, teach them about building the baseline up. The baseline, and learning how to recognize when the baseline is, you slipped below the baseline. Because when you slip below the baseline, you're vulnerable, as we talked about. I don't want you to be vulnerable. I don't want you to get broken. I don't want the alligators to be dragging you below the water. I don't want the news to tear you up. I don't want what the politicians do to mess your mind up. I don't want you to become angry at what because you saw something on television, or you heard something on the street, or somebody said something rude or obnoxious to you, or criticized you. I don't want you to lose baseline for that. But you got to commit. I want the baseline. And I just want to build upon the baseline. So here we are. We have the encounter adventure to this weekend, building a baseline for us, where I will walk out of my encounters with God and I will walk out of my relationship with Yeshua, and that will guide me through all steps. Session 2, where is your sense of adventure? Are you ready to prepare for the deeper expedition into the wilderness that 5783 is going to call forth? There will be a deeper expedition in the wilderness. Let me tell you my story. Every year, as we get close to the end of Torah, it's bittersweet for me. As having taught Torah as long as I teach, have taught it and had the pleasure of doing that, and the joy of going through these cycles day after day after day. When you get to the last few parshes of Deuteronomy, you begin to say, oh, I don't want to leave. But we hang around that mountain. we just camp around that mountain too long. He says, I want to take you higher next year. So I said, okay, if you're going to take us higher next year, and take me higher next year, take all of us higher at some level, what will be the elements of it? What will it look like, this higher level of adventure, this higher level of involvement, engagement with the grand plan of redemption and the grand plan of restoration? What will it look like, and what will it consist of? And he's always faithful to me, it seems. He always gives me some sort of a encounter. And so I'm sort of sitting there closing my eyes at my desk and just asking him this question. And all of a sudden, I'm in this little vision, okay? So it's coming to me. I hope it's coming to you, that you have similar things. When you're reading the Torah, you're reading the Word, you're studying Mashiach's teachings, whatever it is, that if you just close your eyes and you ask him a question, he will respond. He will respond gently, or he will respond firmly. He will respond anyway, but he is alive. You know, I hear my beloved brothers, and I sometimes do it myself. I catch myself. We're talking about how Yeshua was. Yeshua was good. Yeshua was wise. Yeshua was forgiving. Yeshua was bold. Yeshua was whatever. And that word in the middle is was. Anybody, don't raise your hand, but has anybody been guilty of doing this? Because we think of him in the past tense. Anybody think of Yeshua in the past tense? Forget that. Get over that. He's not in the past tense. Yeshua is. Yeshua is marvelous. Yeshua is wise. Yeshua is glorious. Yeshua is kind. Yeshua is bold. Yeshua is all up in our business every day of our lives. And so here, Yeshua will come to me and he will speak to me. And in his vision, I see this vision. There's a father seated like at a Shabbat table, a Sabbath table, when you would gather your children around. But it's the Sabbath. I know it's the Sabbath, the last Sabbath of the year, this Sabbath. It was this Sabbath, the last Sabbath of the Torah year before we go into the Simchat Torah, the starting of the new cycle. And in this, he calls his son to him. He calls his son to him, and he begins to talk to him. I wrote it down, so let me see if I can give it to you without messing it up. I saw a father call his son to his side, and I heard him say, I'm about to take you on another road trip. I'm about to take you on another adventure, another expedition of discovery. Hello, that's you and me. It's another expedition of discovery awaits us. God has it planned for us. He's about to take you on this other expedition of adventure and discovery. On this year's journey, I'm going to take you further into the wilderness than we have ever gone before. Take a deep breath. That's sort of exciting. But if you've ever spent much time in the wilderness, really? It's going to be worse than that. It's going to be harder than that. It's going to be more challenging than that. The terrain's going to be tougher. The people are going to be meaner. The animals are going to be hungrier. What scorpions are going to be more prevalent? What does this mean that you're going to take me in this realm? So he says, further into the wilderness than we have ever gone before, and all around us, the father says to his son, will be agitated people who will not like us, and who will be quick to anger, and who will rush to judgment, and who will resort to violence, or at least violent language, at the drop of a hat. That wasn't what I really wanted to hear. That really wasn't the message I was looking for, but that's the message that he wants to speak. Now, if we're in this for him, that doesn't scare us. We kind of shake a little bit. We said, no, if that's what this is about, and this stage of the journey is about us going deeper with you, then whatever we face, we will face. And so in the vision, the young man, the child, the son asked the father, okay, then what can we expect from these people? And why are they like that? What can we expect from the people we will encounter at the higher levels as we go forth in joy, led forth in peace? What can we expect? And why are they like that? Why are they so angry? Why are they so easy to get mad? Why are they so prone to respond with negativity and violence? Why? This was the question the young man asked, and he said, every single one of them, the father tells the son, every one of them has their own story. Every one of those people who will respond to you with anger or with bitterness or with cruelty or with threats of violence, every one of them has their own story. You don't know their story. I know their story. He says, as you go forth in joy, led forth with peace. As you go forth in this, the Father's telling his Son, you need to understand each one that you face has a story. Don't judge them on the basis of their behavior and just write them off. Understand what you need to do is go beneath their story. They've been carried down by the alligators down below the surface of the water, swirled around, and so they don't have any other way to respond to you besides the way they know how. This requires patience of the saints, okay? Nobody likes it when they come at us and attack us or mock our faith, or mock our God, or mock our Bible. No one likes it when that happens, but everyone who does that, you see, is not just some mean, horrible person. They're acting mean, horrible at the moment, but they've got a story. A story Yeshua knows, and there is a key, a way in to their story if we do not overreact to their behavior. So the Father turns to the Son and says, Son, unless you are willing to bear their pain, then do not condemn them for their actions. I remember back in the day, this has stirred something in me because of being part of the prophetic movement for years and years and years. And you know, I was around a lot of prophets, and I got to where, you know, you just prophesy because you see something. You get something, you prophesy. You have truth, you dump it. And you causes a lot of damage in the process, because truth must be filtered through the hearer's ability to hear. And unless you bear their burden, you cannot speak prophetically over their lives. Unless you understand their pain and care about their condition, you cannot just speak truth over them thinking your truth is somehow going to prevail. It is the joy and the hope and the love that you bring and the loving kindness that you bring that allows that truth to have its place to rest, to come to place. And so the Father's talking to the Son, and it's like, this is going to be a great adventure. This is going to be a great adventure you're taking us on this next year. Are we up for it? No. Can you get us up to that point through encounter? Through encounter and through relationship, can He take us up to that level? You know He can, right? We've seen it happen. We just, from time to time, forget what it's like for it to take place in our lives. We expect it to take place in other people's lives. But when it comes to us, when we get offended, we get hurt, we get wounded, we get frightened, we get intimidated, we get mocked, then we don't have it unless we get to the baseline. Come back to the encounter. Yeshua kept saying things to His disciples, all of us, through the Sermon on the Mount. When people say all manner of evil against you, falsely for my sake, when you are persecuted in one place, He said, what are you supposed to do? Sulk. What? What did you say, Millie? I've got joy down in my heart, deep, deep down in my heart, peace and joy down in my heart, deep, deep down in my heart. Now, by the time we're leaving here tomorrow, you're going to be singing that so loud that the people on the road are going to say, what is going on with those people? Because at least that's my hope. The vision is, do you understand, my child, that isn't this higher level that I'm calling you to walk in, going forth in joy, led forth in peace, in relationship with Mashiach, Messiah, Yeshua, and on your baseline of your encounters with God. In this level, you will need to be able to access my strength to be able to forgive. And to be able not to say they're right. You don't have to agree with them. We don't even have to worry about whether they're right or whether they're wrong. The issue is there a key? Is there an open key door where we can get into there and we get to unwrap their story? And if they give us the slightest little opening in there, we can begin to release the presence of God that we have into that. And if they don't, then maybe we just quit messing with them and let somebody else down the road, when they're a little more accessible, have that access. Patience of the saints. Well, so this is the first issue of why will they be like that, and what will they do to us, and what will be their nature. And if you've ever read 2 Timothy 3, anybody remember 2 Timothy 3? In those days, men will be lovers of self. And it goes on for verse after verse after verse about everything that can go wrong with mankind. Why mankind needs redemption in the first place. He's like, that's what we're going to face? Lovers of self, lovers of money, vicious, backbiting. That's the world. Now, you can judge them for that and be angry, or you can say, but each one's got a story as to how they got there. And our job is to find out a way into that story. And if we can't, then to leave them alone until somebody can down the road. Well, this is the first stage of our higher level of journey. Also, the Holy One, the Father in this vision said, also on this excursion, this adventure, we will find out that the earth itself will seem to be sick. Colorado is a beautiful place. I drove through here yesterday on the way over here and was just awesomely amazed. But what could it be? What could it be if the restoration took place, if we could see the restoration begin to take place? What could it be? Well, so the earth the very earth itself in this deeper part of the wilderness will seem to be sick. And it will be as if it had contracted something like COVID. A pandemic of the dirt. A pandemic of the trees, of the forest. I've already noticed the pines. If you notice the pines, the beetles, whatever's done, it's all over. It's from Texas all the way through Oklahoma. It's all the way to Colorado. I see the pines are beginning to die, and there's this sickness upon the earth. And you see it in crops that don't grow. I say there's something out here y'all have called snow fences, or what do you? Snow fences, and I don't know the whole story, but I'm sure it's supposed to keep the snow off the road. I don't know what the story is. But they have these natural snow fences, living snow fences, I think they call them. And there's some kind of an evergreen tree. They plant this back, and you have one here and one here, one here, one here, one. And hopefully it will block. I've seen this on the side of the road. Never saw it before in my life, where people have actually, and some people dedicated to the memory of somebody, they put in a snow fence, whatever it is, to protect against that. Well, here's the problem. You put in these cedars or these evergreens of some variety, and there's no real water mechanism apparently. And what's happening is you've got this thing that says snow break or snow fence or whatever it's called, and these poor little things, they look like somebody set fire to the to this trunk. Half of them are dead or dying, and it's not much of a snow fence. It's not much of a testimony. The idea is, do you understand the earth is suffering? The earth is, and you know, some people worry about all sorts of scientific things they think may be the cause of it. I'll tell you the cause of it. It has nothing to do with emissions. That's not helping, but it has nothing to do with emissions. The sons of God, the covenant sons and daughters of the King, are not going forth in joy, being led forth in peace. The redemptive plan is being put on halt by our self-will, by our selfishness, by our agitation, our irritation, our aggravation, by our offense and our unforgiveness. That's why the earth is suffering and crying and dying, and the snow breaks don't grow, and the pine beetles come. It's as if the earth has contracted COVID, some kind of a wasting disease. It keeps it where it can't breathe and it can't function. It's our job. Can you not see that and hunger to be part of the solution to it? And I'm not talking about a political solution. I'm talking about a spiritual release of life and health and peace into our environment. Blessing everywhere we go. Being a blessing. This is Avrahamic to the ultimate goal, right? The Avrahamic calling, when you sum it down, you add it 12:1, verse 2, verse 3, 12:3 ends this, you will be a blessing to every family on the face of the earth. Whoa, well, if that's our calling and that's our empowerment from the Holy, that's what the covenant is really all about, is becoming a blessing to every family on the face of the earth. Don't you think we're going to have an impact on the world everywhere we go? Well, that's what we're called to do and be. And so this is the issue. The earth is going to feel as if it's sick, like it has COVID. There will be volatile weather patterns. The Father says to the Son, there will be violent shakings. He said there will be poison in the air and sickness in the surface water. He said there will be areas of relative health, and that's the areas where my people are most active. That's the area where my people are most attuned to the baseline and staying in encounter and staying forth in joy and being led forth in peace. Those places are like a city of refuge, but it's in every area. And every part of the earth will have cities and areas of refuge where there will still be prosperity and the sickness will not reach, or if it reaches, it will not reach to that level. But there will also be no-fly zones. There will be areas which are so afflicted, so endangered, so damaged, that eventually they will be unpassable and uninhabitable. And the people from those will begin to invade and try to become migrants into the areas that are still healthy. You think, oh, how terrible. He says, no, oh, how wonderful. Because that's where my people are. That's where my people are. It's a setup. It's all part of the plan. If the negativity is going to get that severe. Now, here's the issue. Is it there yet? Are we there yet? The answer is no. Most places in the earth, most cities in Denver and Dallas and Houston and even New York and San Francisco, that's just in America, much less of the rest of the world. Most of the cities are still accessible to us right now. We can still go in if we go in with joy and led forth by peace. That window will close if we just let it. So we talked about this with Stu and Millie and this idea of don't quit yet. Don't quit going yet. Even though there's more danger than there ever was before, you guys will face this a lot. There's more danger, there's more opposition ever, but you still got a window. And take advantage of that window and release everything God has given you in that window with love and with joy and with peace. And realize that you may be the last ones. You may be the last ones to go into that area. You may be the last ones to carry the message into those, because there will be a division take place between the areas of refuge and the areas of no-fly zone. And that will begin to develop. It's already developed. It's already started. But we will see it mature greatly in 5783, according to this vision. Why will the land that you are taking us to be that way? The child asked. The son asked his father, why? What happened? What went wrong? Do we even care? Do we have a sense of feeling of a oneness with the earth from which we came? Or are we just in this for ourselves? I think that's one of the biggest problems. Mankind as a whole has taken the earth as being something to use, not something to steward, not something to nourish, not something to nurture. So now this is a challenge to us because we want to enjoy the fruits of the earth. We want to enjoy the beauty of the earth, but we don't really want to give back and take our time, our efforts, our money, our energy, and actually consciously, with intentionality, go forth and bless the areas where we go. One of the most pleasant things I did on this trip, one reason I wanted to drive, it's hard to bless things from the air. It's hard to see where you are and see the cows, not cows in general, that cow, and see that farmhouse with those people living in that farmhouse. You can't see that from the air. Hardly. So, but from your driving, it's like, what an adventure you're taking me on. I'm going by these farmhouses. I'm going by these cities. I'm going by the forest. I'm going by the plains. I'm going by the arroyos, the washed out hollows, the wadis. I'm going through all these places, and each one of them, I'm stirred. It's as if I came from that spot, or at least I'm connected to that spot in some regard. The earth of that spot and I are connected, and I want to bless it. Do you do that? Do you bless the people and bless the land everywhere you go? You know, sometimes you may get busy and be listening to radio or something else. I don't know what you do when you travel, but I have to turn my radio off so I can remember to bless every area I go by. So that will be one of our jobs in the coming year, is to increase the level at which we interact with the natural, the creation. I don't call it nature. Nature implies that it is natural and just happened. It didn't just happen. It was created. And so it's not, to me, nature, it's creation. And as a co-creation, I'm also a creation. You're also a creation. We share with the earth and its ecosystem and all of its aspects of it, that we are co-created by the same force, the same being. And we have this in common, and we should be working together and cooperating together. We should love the earth, not Mother Earth, co-created earth as we are. Why is it that way? Because men have not seen the land as a potential Garden of Eden. Is your home, the land on which you live, the apartment building, the mobile home trailer park, the tent, wherever it is that you live, wherever you stay, even tonight, wherever you're going to stay, do you recognize that you have a responsibility to bless that land? To release over that land, that area, the gifts that you have gotten from the Holy One, the things that have come from heaven to you, and release that and see it become fruitful and more so. Well, he says, the Father continues, this all means, son, that you must stay closer to me than you ever have before. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to setting a new baseline. I'm looking forward to hearing your stories when you set a new baseline this year. That you are closer to him. The biggest problem we have with that is feeling we're close enough. You know, I love the words of Shaul. I do not consider, brethren, that I have attained, but I press forward to the mark of the prize of the high calling. I'm still reaching out. I'm looking for a new baseline, a new level of relationship. I'm not satisfied with the level of spirituality I have now, my level of worship, my level of study, my level of activation, my level of taking care of the widow and the poor and the fatherless and the foreigner and the Levite. I'm not satisfied with the level at which I'm doing that. I'm not satisfied with the level at which I'm loving my wife or my husband. I'm not satisfied with the way I'm training up my children the way they should go, or that I'm honoring my father and my mother the way the Holy One intended. I'm not satisfied with the level at which I'm at. That will be the first key of saying, I'm ready to go for the next level of the baseline. I'm not satisfied with the level at which I observe and enjoy Shabbat. Shabbat is as much of a magic bullet as the Holy One would give to us. It's like, if you understand what I'm giving to you with the Sabbath, it is your power source. If you were playing a video game and you were Pac-Man and you had those little power pills, Sabbath is your power pill. In it, you receive power. In it, you receive energy, impetus. You are now ready for the next challenge by virtue of that. So are you satisfied with your level of Sabbath observance? Not that it's bad, but you're only at a certain mile marker. We need to go to another mile marker. Time to go to a higher mile marker with regard to our experience of the Sabbath and our sharing of the Sabbath. I have been around, I've probably done it myself and not thought about it, where you almost hold out the Sabbath as a sword. We do this, you don't. We have the Sabbath, you don't. Oh, no, it's a gift to be shared with all. It's a precious gift. And if they don't have the Sabbath because they've never experienced the Sabbath, if they have not understood the beauty of it, do we feel their pain? Can we understand that's one reason they're where they are and why they act like they act? And it's not for us to judge them and say, oh, how can we now begin to present it to them in such a way that it's something that they know they need and want, and the Holy One will open those doors. So this year, you will have to stay closer to me than you ever have before. Do not wander away from me. I don't know about you. I've lived 68 years. Some of those years have been walking intimately and close with Yeshua. Really close. So close that I felt like I was flying. I felt like my feet didn't touch the ground. Even when I got wounded or stung or whatever might happen, in those times when I was following him very closely and staying with him in step with where he was doing and going wherever he leads, I'll go. When that was my pathway, my walk, when that was what was happening, I was able to handle just about everything. But it didn't take much. If I stepped away, if I paused, if I stopped in my tracks, and he moved on just a little bit, and we had a little separation, just the slightest separation, it was amazing to me how much more I felt those things and the arrows and the stings and the barbs and the hurts and the failures. And so whenever I think about him going somewhere and me not being with him and me not being right on his left foot, as he steps, I make the next step. When I think about not doing that, there's something inside me almost wants to cry. I can't make it without him. Oh, I might make it. I might survive. But what damage would I cause? To myself? And to those I love most. So this issue of staying close to him is going to require a little bit of discipline, but is there anything else you'd rather do? Is anything else worth you missing time with Yeshua, being where he is? Is there anything in this world that you would rather do than be close to him and follow in his footsteps and sense his presence and his aura? Well, if there is, and I don't know you. I mean, we're going to have to talk. I have to figure out what your issue is, what your story is, because that to me is the most important thing in the world. Let nothing come between me and Yeshua. Let nothing come between you and Yeshua this year. Let nothing come between you. Let no hardship, no hard feelings, no walls, no division, no separation come between you and Yeshua. He says, you will need to stay close to me. Do not wander away from me. Pay close attention to your surroundings. Be alert. You've seen it all through Scripture. It's no surprise to you. Be alert. Watch out. Don't be caught up in your own. Don't sit there with your phone looking down as you walk down the road. That's just in the natural, very simple way to be alert to your surroundings. You're going to need to know what your surroundings are and what's happening and why. He says, and read the horizon in front of you. Read the horizon. What's on your horizon? Most of us just live moment by moment, day by day. And there's something to be said for, one day at a time and all that stuff. We need to be able to live in the present. But we also need to be able to read the horizons. Read what is coming up into our world. And how are we supposed to interact with the world in such a way that can make it give glory, bring glory and honor to the King? So read the horizon in front of you. See where the clouds are forming. See where the difficulties are rising. See where, one thing I always tell my boys, They're getting old enough now, they're telling their kids. But I always told my boys this. I said, whenever you're in a challenging situation, a difficult thing presents itself to you. So I've got to follow two things. First thing you follow is shalom. If you are going where you're supposed to go, if you're with the Holy One, and you're just having questions whether you are or whether not, ask, are you at shalom? Is your heart at shalom? Are you at peace? Do you sense a sense of well-being and wholeness? Do you sense you're getting better, or do you sense you're getting worse? Second thing is, watch the people that you trust and see if you're getting favor from those men or those women or those people. So shalom and favor. So these are the issues. Read your horizon. Where's the favor? Where's the shalom? And if you're finding a lack of shalom, seriously consider how quickly you move into that area. If you're seeing a lack of favor from the people, you're going to get lack of favor from people who don't like you. I get that. I'm talking about from the people that you trust and you rely upon. All right. It says, travel in teams and pairs, never alone. America's America. We're all independent, right? You guys are Coloradans, we're Texans. Raise the flag. Independent. I do it my way. Well, those days where we had the grace to do that without having immediate consequences to it are ending. We need to do it His way with His people. We don't need to be lone rangers and independent. It says, travel in teams and pairs, never alone, and watch out for each other. Care about their well-being as well as yours. That will limit some of the things you do and some of the things you say. If all you're worried about your own well-being, if you're faster than the other guy, you'll run away from the bear. That's just an example. But the idea is care about the other person as much as you care about yourself. This is something Yeshua was really good at. If you don't know He was good at, you didn't understand why we sang that. He took away our sins. He bore our sins. Because He cared about every one of us. And He cared about what we were dealing with and what would happen to us if we didn't do that. And He was willing to bear all those things for us. Now, this issue, we can't maybe be totally like Him, but we want to be as much like Him as we possibly can. That's what we do. Emulate Yeshua. Be unlike unto Him. So He says, watch out for others. Leave no one behind. I know there is a sense of, check my clock, 1 o'clock, you do. There's a sense in Christianity and Judaism both that seems to be historic, that if we kill our wounded, we shoot our wounded, is that what they call it? That if something goes wrong, we're so worried about looking like we are somehow approving of their conduct or their behavior or their status, that we just want to turn our nose up and turn our backs and walk away from them. And certainly we shouldn't participate in their conduct if it's bad conduct, and certainly we shouldn't approve of their perversion if it's perversion. I get that part, but here's the process of it: is that, are we going to leave them behind to just wallow and drown? Are we? Is that who we are? Is that all we got? Or do we have enough of Yeshua in us that says, this is going to be ugly, but I need to step back into this. This is my brother. This is my sister. And I've got to somehow walk a tightrope, a balance here, where I do not condone and agree with their behavior, but I still hold open the hand out that says, if you want to come out of there, and here's the pathway, and here's the way. Now, that process is a change of thinking for most of religion, because we don't want to judge folks and write them off and say, I want nothing to do with that. What will they think if I see me with that person? What will they think if Yeshua is with a prostitute? Or I don't mean her in that way. I just mean she's in the house. What will they think? It's not a matter of condoning. It's not a matter of believing in the activity. It's a matter of saying, I'm not going to leave you behind. You're my brother. You're my sister. And I will not leave you behind. That's what the Father said to the Son. Leave no man behind. Only speak when necessary or when spoken to. One of the dangers we have with social media is that it's constantly asking you, what are you thinking? What's on your mind? Most of the time, we should not respond. Amen? We could try to go around the room, everyone, one at a time. Amen. Do we really get this? Most of the time, we should not answer that question. Because what's coming out of us and what's on our mind is probably something we should have processed through our relationship with Yeshua and ask Him questions about before we ever even thought about putting it on there for public consumption for anybody else. Learning to walk in a relationship with Him is learning to count more upon His opinion and have conversation with Him about what we're talking about and thinking about than it is talking about with the human race. So only speak when necessary or when spoken to. And when you speak, speak softly. Don't shout. Higher level. Higher level. There's times to shout in His presence. Right? He can handle it. But the human race is not in a position for us to be successful shouting at them. Even if we're right and they're wrong. Shouting will just push them further down into their rat hole. So this is a patience of the part of the saints, and calmness and meekness and all the things we know are part of what He calls us to be, but are so easy to forget in the heat of the moment. And learning to speak and speak softly and speak where it can be heard and received by the hearer. Only speak when necessary or when spoken to. And when you speak, speak softly, don't shout. Only speak life. Never whine, complain, accuse, argue, or rant. Higher level. You know, I do still frequent Facebook because I try to put things on there. Hopefully it'll be encouraging to people. So I see, and if somebody puts on there, this is a rant. Warning, this is a rant. It's like I say, okay, next. Next, rant means you have lost all credibility in the kingdom. Rant means you are out of control. You're acting in the flesh. No exceptions. Zero exceptions. Now, it's hard. A higher level, right? We're going higher level at the higher level of responsibility. A higher level of responsiveness to the Holy One. So when you speak, do not shout, do not speak, whine, complain, accuse, pontificate, argue, or rant. All that's of the flesh. And he says, now, this is the Father concluding his remarks to the Son. He says, in so doing, both your enjoyment of our relationship and your impact upon the environment, both your enjoyment of our relationship, the Father says, and your enjoyment of the environment will be increased to the highest level you have ever experienced thus far in your walk. Well, you thought it was all going to be just hard. No, you're going to find out that in that hardness is the most rewarding experience you'll ever have. You know this is the way this works, right? In our whenever it was hardest and we managed to make it through, it became the most powerful message in our life, we wouldn't change it for the world. I told Stu this morning, I think I said that I wouldn't change the fact that I had COVID for the world. I probably would still change the fact that Rosemary had COVID and almost died, but I wouldn't change the fact that I almost died from COVID for the world, because in it, I learned what I need to do and how hopeless and helpless I am without Him and without His words. And that every moment of breath, every moment we draw breath is precious. Is it not? Every time our heart beats, it is a gift from heaven for which we owe everything, for which we can rejoice and celebrate. And every time that impulse goes from our brain to our limbs or to our nerve centers of our body, every time that happens, we should be jumping up and down in a sense for joy. Wow, we get to be on this earth doing His work in His plan as part of the kingdom message, as part of the redemptive plan, the restorative plan. We get to do this. You know, We get to do this. You know, there's a famous scene. If y'all like movies, you ever watch The Rookie? The baseball story, and at a certain point, the old guy, he's the oldest rookie of the history of baseball, I guess, 40 years old or something. I think when he got to 38, whatever. And in the movie, he's getting tired. Minor leagues and bumpy roads and terrible beds and hotel rooms and cheap, no pay, and just it's like I got a family at home. Why am I doing all this? And he goes out. He's about to quit and just go back home. And on his way home, he goes by a baseball field where little league boys kids are playing. And he stops by the field and stands out in the center field fence and looks at the ball. Kids playing baseball, little kids playing baseball, having a time of their lives. And one of the little boys out in outfield, nobody's hit the ball in the outfield all day. He's out there, kind of legs crossed and whatever. And he turns around and sees the guy, and he kind of waves at him and smiles. And something happens inside of Jimmy. Inside of Jimmy Moore, I think his name was. And he goes back to the clubhouse, and he puts on his uniform, and he's walking out, and he sees his other rookie, the guy, the real talented baseball player, and he's all focused on the game and about what's going to happen, maybe his career and all this stuff. And Jimmy walks by and pats Brooks on the back and says, "Brooks, you know what we get to do today? You know what we get to do today? We get to play baseball." We get to do kingdom. This is what we get to do. We get to do kingdom. We get to do relationship with the creator of the universe. We get to be joy and peace. We get to walk forth and be the light to the world that he called us to. We get to do this. What will we do with the opportunity in the coming year? Well, that's our challenge for this day, for this part of the day. Believe it or not, I've got another challenge for you tonight. After we get back at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or when we start. So, 5. All right. Jack or Stu, which one's taking over? Thank you so much for listening so patiently. Amen.